It's like a aligning of stars. It's not one thing that happens, but multiple things that happen.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
This week's Island influencer, Shelley Langan-Newton, grew up in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, where she passed her 11 plus 1 year early. She moved to the Isle of Man, where her son, now 18, was 6 years old. Shelley admits that she has a go-with-the-flow philosophy, which has permeated through her career, describing herself as a strategic, organised and collaborative executive leader with a passion for empowering people, clients and partners to achieve their potential. Her LinkedIn profile reads, "Building kinder organisations to grow with conscience and purpose in a digital world." This really intrigued me. So I want you now to know what I do about who Shelley Langan is and how she got to where she is today, as I share it with you in episode 83 of Island Influencers. Welcome, Shelley, to the Island Influencers studio. Thanks so much for coming out to St John's. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Thank you.
We've e-met, obviously, on LinkedIn. So no, thank you so much for coming along.
You're welcome. I've been listening to your podcast since... When did you start? A few years ago now?
Oh yeah, we launched the first episode. Thank you so much, first. That's really kind. The first episode was launched in lockdown in March 2020, and completely by accident. We didn't know there was a pandemic.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, of course.
No, so because it takes months and months to launch something like this. Yeah. But no, thank you. So for the benefit of all our listeners, who don't know the things that I've read about you, but could you, which are very impressive, by the way, could you?
I'll pay you later.
Could you just, tell us all about you, where you've come from, because, how you came to come to the Isle of Man, and of course, how you've got to where you are now.
So I'm trying to keep it as concise as possible, because I could probably speak for like an hour.
Yeah, let's just do this microphone a bit closer. So, okay.
How's that?
Much better.
Yeah. I'll start again for James. I can edit that out.
No worries.
So I'll try and keep it concise, because I could probably talk for the whole podcast about where I've come from.
Fine. Carry on.
A small segment. So I was born in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, and I probably, my earliest sort of like oddity about my growing up was that I sat the 11 plus a year early. So my mum sent me to sit an 11 plus at the local grammar school, and just to practice, so that the next year I wouldn't be so worried and nervous, and I'd sort of done it once, and anyway I passed.
Blimey.
So I think I can't really remember the decision making, but my mum had sort of gone, well, maybe we're better send her, because she might not get in next year. So won that opportunity. So I was sort of grew up quite quickly, really, because I was always a year early. So I finished my GCSEs at 15 and my A-levels at 17, and then went on to uni. When I was only 17.
Gosh.
I was an October baby, so it wasn't the August or anything.
Yeah.
So I was quite, but I was, I was constantly not really ever celebrating my birthdays, because always everyone was older than me, and then it was like, oh yeah, you're 13 now, are you? Oh, great. Lovely. So yes, I went to uni. So I was in my second year, I fell pregnant with my son. So I was 19, I think, yep, when I fell pregnant, and had that sort of, what am I going to do? It felt like the right thing to do. I was with his dad, and we bought a house, and I was doing my degree at the same time. So it just felt like the right thing to do. So I had my son in my second, going into my third year. So in the summer, I had not planned, but actually worked out very well.
Yes.
And he was 5 or 6 weeks old when I went back to uni, and then I did my third year.
How did you manage that? Was that did you have him with you at uni? Or
So bits and bats, really. Sometimes I had him at uni. My mum used to get up at 5 because I used to commute from Leeds to Sunderland, which is where I went to uni.
Right.
Which is a couple of hours for those that don't know that that journey. A couple of hours there, a couple of hours back. But I chose modules that were just in the same block, so I didn't really have the luxury of just choosing whatever I wanted. I sort of just went, oh, well, they're on the same day, so I'll do those. And I ended up doing like directing and choreography, and because I did a performing arts degree.
Yes.
And I sort of started the performing arts degree doing sort of more front stage stuff, and then ended up doing directing and choreography. So that was sort of a shift into a different area of the arts that I would never have explored, really.
A whole different skill set.
Yeah,
yeah,
very much so, but one that certainly travelled throughout my life as well.
Yes, I can read it, but let's not do the spoiler alert.
So I had... it was sort of a mix. My mum would have him, his other grandma would have him for a day. So I chose a module where I could teach at the local college. So I worked with a charity, and I did a year-long sort of choose your own module at uni sort of thing.
Yeah.
It meant I didn't have to travel to Sunderland, and I could also get some experience. And they actually offered me a job for when I finished and said, oh, have you thought about teaching? And I went, well, no, not really. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And they said,
Yes.
well, we'd like you to continue with us as a lecturer. And I was like, oh, okay, sounds like a job. Yeah.
Sort of crash.
Well, that'll do.
Yeah.
And I had really enjoyed it for the year, and I was working with adults with all sorts of learning difficulties and physical difficulties. So it was performing arts. It was very sort of in at the deep end of teaching, really, which is looking at, how do you make things accessible and, easy for people for very different needs all in one session. So it was really, it was fascinating. And then I was a lecturer there for 6 years in various different roles there. And I had, in that time, met someone. I'd broken up with my son's dad, but I met someone else, and he was the link to the Isle of Man. So that's how I came over. So he had set up a business here,
yes,
and I was visiting, and I thought, I absolutely love it. I love it. I'm maybe 4 or 5 months, and I just fell in love with the place and thought, I want to move. And I had a 5 or 6 year old, so by that time, and a boy that loved being outside and needed a good run for a couple of hours a day.
They do, don't they, boys?
Yes. So it was just incredible to be able to have, I just thought, there's nothing really keeping me. I had a bit of savings, and I thought, let's go for it. This is an opportunity, and I don't want to turn around and say, what if I didn't take it? So that's how I ended up on the Isle of Man.
Goodness.
I know. And then there's a whole nother story from there.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So moving over to fab schools for young kids. There are some really good schools, aren't there?
Yeah, and I mean, what I loved is that I felt so much more relaxed here, that I could be a parent that wasn't going, what time are you going to be in, and where are you? And, there was a sense that he could just have a childhood, and I didn't need to sort of, say no all the time. You can't go and do that, and you can't go there, and you can't run off down that road. And so he had a really good childhood, exploring the various glens and
no commute for you. Well, not 2 hours a day.
Yeah, no.
2 ways.
No, and even when I was working, it was 40 minutes. So that's so that was it.
Yeah, things we take for granted over here.
I know.
Yeah,
it's incredible, and just for me personally, that sense of community that I felt was one of the, other than my son and the life that I could provide for him here, but the sense of community that I felt here was, I just had never felt that before.
No, I mean, do you mind me asking about how you felt when you found out that you were expecting at 19, and what went through your mind at that point?
I was a smoker at the time, so I need a cigarette. And then I was like, oh no, I can't have one. Oh, sorry, that was a bit loud. So I was totally, so I'd done it in my lunch break, and we were moving from one part of the campus to another, and I just thought, wow, I'm a bit late on my period, and then we'll just
just do a test.
Just do a test and find out. And actually, so I did the test, and then nothing really registered, and I took myself over to the next campus for my next lecture, and someone went, here's your sandwich I've picked up for you. And I was like, oh my God. And it just sunk in. As soon as someone spoke to me, I just realised that I actually was, because I put it in my bag thinking, no, that can't be right. But actually it was incredible, because burst into tears, didn't know what to do, went into my lecturer's office, who was just incredible, the amazing Leslie Young. I'm not sure she's a lecturer there at the uni anymore, but she was just, the moment will stick with me forever, because she just said, well, Shelley, we're not going to kick you off the course. You can do both. You can have a baby if you want, and you can complete your degree. That is possible. And I had just not thought in my moment of it hitting me and everything racing through my mind, I hadn't really thought of the both option.
And how did that make you feel?
It was as soon as she said that, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. That I'm going to do both. And
she must have thought you were a great student in order to tell you that, maybe at that time.
Yeah, I whatever the words, they were the words I needed, I needed to hear, that I didn't know I needed to hear at that time, which was just really sort of straight and just like, well, there is another, there's another option, and you can do both.
That's really inspiring to hear that. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. You. Yeah.
So how did you, when you got to the Isle of Man, how did your career carry on from there?
So when I got to the island, I thought, I'll just do anything. I'll just take a job anywhere. I'm a bit of a grafter. I'll do anything. And actually realised with the work permit situation as it was at the time, I could only teach performing arts. So that really limited my job opportunities.
I don't know. Manx Operatic, Douglas Choral Union.
So I sort of, in tandem to me writing emails to all the heads at the time, for all the high schools, I went round all the what do you call them when it's a job? They go and get your jobs.
Peripatetic? No, recruitment agencies.
That's the one. That's the one.
Did you find when you had a child that your vocabulary changed?
My brain.
My vocabulary sort of it completely vanished for a while. I couldn't think of words, and I say great a lot now.
Like that.
Oh, and then it's having kids as well. They come home from school and trying to get down with the kids. Yeah. Sorry.
So recruitment agencies. We got there together.
Yes, we did.
So anyway, I got sort of to my last, every recruitment agency, we really can't help you. We've nothing for you. And then the last one, who was Sharon Kissack, and she happened to be on the board of governors for Ballacameen. She said, well, I can't help you sort of professionally properly, but actually I can ask Adrienne to have who was the head teacher at the time, Ballacameen, to have a word and see. So she made the introduction, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up being offered a role there, teach performing arts. So fantastic. I was there for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And in that time, I had only taught sort of 18 plus. I'd not taught, 16, 18 plus. I'd not taught sort of a lower school. Or sort of, age 11 to 16. So that was a new experience for me. But all in all, it was. I made some lovely friends. I made a nice community, and I've always really enjoyed that sort of teaching, the actual hands-on sort of doing of it. So.
Yeah. And you're a bit of a singer as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I was never a singer, but I am now.
Yeah, professional singer, it says in your CV.
People have paid me to sing.
That's amazing. Fabulous. So it's a great talent. Yeah. It's an amazing talent.
Well, it's it's one that I've always sung. I've always sung around the house, and probably definitely annoyed my son enough times to say, oh, stop singing. But yeah, no, it's something I've always really enjoyed. But as a performing arts, it's always been the one that I felt the least confident in. I've always felt more confident drama and dance.
Gosh.
So it was something that I very much. But it was some colleagues of mine actually at the school that had said, "Oh, do you want? Oh, we'd like to get together for a little sort of session every week, and do you fancy joining us?" Singing, and they both played the guitar, bass, and normal guitar. And I said, "Yeah, let's do that." That sounded very brave, so put my brave pants on, did that. And then after a few months, they said, "Right, you're going to really be upset with us, but we've put us in for the Blues Festival in the summer, and we haven't asked you, but you've got to do it now because they've accepted us." And we're so I said, yeah, because they knew I would have said absolutely no way, I'm not doing it. So they just didn't ask me, and and put it in, and that was where it started really. So from there, I was asked as a guest singer for someone else that watched me there, and then I got a bit more confidence, and then I put a shout out on one of the Facebook groups, Musicians Isle of Man, I think, or something like that, and said, "Does anyone want a singer? I fancy being a singer of a band." And so I ended up being a singer of a band. The amazing things you can do if you ask.
Isn't it strange? Yeah. Fantastic. So that's well done. Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to of many things for teaching on the Isle of Man, and that is also one of them that helped me fall into that.
Yeah.
Goodness. So, but that wasn't. Teaching was not to be forever, so
no, I can see that.
Pivoted.
Yeah. So how did that come about? How did the pivot happen?
Probably like most of these things, I think it's like a aligning of stars. It's not one thing that happens, but a multiple of things that happen. I had a short-term contract at the school, and it was coming to an end, and they decided they weren't going to renew the contract, and they were cutting down and cost cutting. Arts is normally one of the things to go, but they had
sport.
Yes, two of what I arguably the most important subjects.
I couldn't agree more.
At school, and that had happened at the same time. So I was someone for a while had been saying, I want you to come and work for me, and I said, "Oh, no, I don't know what you. I'm just a teacher. I'm not. I can't do anything else." And then this happened, and this opportunity was presented to me where I had to do something else because my contract was coming to an end, and my son didn't really want to. He was like 10 at that time. He didn't really want to spend summers doing craft activities with his mum anymore. He wanted to do his own thing.
I know, it's awful when they grow up from that age, isn't it?
Yeah,
devastating.
So, I know. So he'd so it was sort of one of those moments where I said, "All right," I said to the person that had sort of been asking me to work for them, "Okay, let's have a serious conversation about this. And what is it? What do you do? What do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do?" And he wanted me to. Well, he wanted an exec assistant, and I and he didn't want it one full time, so he sort of popped me in the marketing team along. And said the marketing team work across all of my businesses. An entrepreneur on the Isle of Man, Matt Newing, very grateful to him for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself, and giving me opportunity to learn. And actually saying, that was one of the things when I said, I don't even know what telecoms is. Is it like mobile phones? And he went, "You'll learn that bit, but I just want you to work for me as the person that you are." And
isn't that great to spot that talent?
Well, I wouldn't have thought that. I didn't think that at the time, but looking back now,
well, I would.
Looking back now, maybe. But yeah, no, very, very grateful to that opportunity. Combined with my bravery of going, you know what, let's do this. I can always go back to teaching. I'd got my 10 years teaching. I got my qualifications. I could go back to do that if I wanted. So
you felt you had a safety net in some respects.
Yeah, it was. I had the safety net, but also I had a bit of a pushing off a bridge moment where I as well. So there was that sort of, well, if I'm going to do it, this is the time to do it. I've got someone actually offering me a role here that I don't have to go back to uni. I don't have to retrain. I can just try it. So that's how I ended up not teaching. And I loved it.
You probably still teach every day without realising it.
Yeah, I cannot imagine how many skills that I had learned from teaching that I totally underrated when I actually was teaching. And it's incredible. I never worked as hard as I worked when I was a teacher. Just unbelievable. I loved it, but it didn't cross my mind that I had honing so many skills. And so for example, sales, I was like, well, I can't sell anything. Well, actually, if you think about having 30, year 9s in front of 13-year-olds in front of you, and you've got a concept and you've got 40 minutes or an hour with them, and you've got to sell that concept, keep them engaged for 40 minutes or an hour.
You can do that.
There's not many things you can't do.
You need a medal for that.
There should be many medals handed out daily on the other hand.
And bigger paychecks for anybody who's listening, teachers.
Yeah. So
that was for Elite. You went to work for Elite Comms Group.
Yeah. So I worked for Elite, but it was across all of Matt's businesses.
Was that how you got into Blue Wave at that point, or no?
No.
Okay, we'll cut that bit out. So how did that manifest to moving through your career from there?
So from there, I was headhunted actually for a local company that worked in telecoms, but in satellite telecoms, SES. So you've actually had Dr. Arning on your podcast.
Yeah. Rocket scientist. He made a joke, and I actually didn't understand the joke in the end, but I laughed. Sorry, Richard, if you're listening to this. Maybe he'll explain it to me one day.
And so it was, I'd been at Elite for a while. One thing that I could never really get experience of, and I got so much experience and so much exposure to, and a vast amount of learning, which I feel like I could, 4 degrees worth in 2 years. But I could never really get an understanding of the money side of it. Ironically, I was on this podcast.
Not at all. That's my job.
Plug.
That's why I have a job.
And so I'd sort of done this skills audit, and I think, I want to know more about that. But I didn't really know. I was always a bit of a burden on the accounts team, and I couldn't really do anything for them that wasn't, it's such a skilled technical thing that I couldn't really be that much assistance. So this role, when I saw it was an sales analyst in the business development team, but it was quite a wide role. But part of the group was analysing sales. So I was like, well, multi-currency, big numbers. It was complex. So I was like, oh, well, this would be a good chance to learn something that I really didn't have what I felt was quite sort of a weak area of mine in terms of business. So yes, it's a bit of a no-brainer to say, and such an amazing company to work for.
It's a shame they've left the island.
I know, and I would say after I left, it's nothing to do with me.
No, I know that. SES, when did they leave? 2020, 2021,
something like that.
Yeah, it's not that long ago.
No, maybe around that period.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. Again, had an amazing time working there, worked across various different sort of not-for-profit, so Isle of Media, which was a public-private partnership.
Yes.
And so got an opportunity to work with government there, which was great and a really interesting experience. And also a company called North Invest. So Richard sits on the board of North Invest.
Yes, I know that company.
And I ended up getting to know my next boss, that I just didn't know at the time, through SES had donated some of my time to help spin up North Invest. So they had a board of directors and not really anyone doing anything, so I helped them get their first employee, and sort of set some structure up for them and they're flying now. It's amazing, and obviously not all to do with me, but I was there at the beginning to help get it going. So that's how I met my next boss, who happened to also own Blue Wave on the island and telecoms companies in the UK. So I had heard on the grapevine that he may need some help, not from him, from someone else, because he would never have poached me from SES. But I thought, oh, this is interesting. I really enjoy working with him, and what has he got going on? And so I called him and I said, what is it? What's going on? Have you got an opportunity? And he was like, oh, well, this. And yeah, I'm really glad you called. So that was how I got the Blue Wave role, which was sort of spurred on by the fact that I had a couple of like negative business experiences as a woman. And I had been sort of sick of people thinking that I was the brew lady. Not that I don't mind ever making anyone a coffee or a tea, just to be clear. But when you're sat around a board table and people think that you're the one that's going to make the brews because you're the woman, I'd had a couple of those moments where I was like, oh, I was 20, it's whatever, 2018, why am I having to deal with this now?
Yes.
And I never had to deal with it in teaching. I never, my sex never, gender never actually came into my head as a thing. And then I sort of come into a tech world where actually my gender is a thing now. And
isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And why should it be? Because I just didn't see what relevance it really had.
No. How did you feel about that?
Frustrated and arguably more and more angry as the more and more things happened.
So what did you do about it then? Come on.
So the final straw for me was that I was at a conference and I was asked. There was myself and a friend of mine, and we both got the only women I think in the audience at this. It was an IT presentation, and we were asked at the beginning, would we stand up and point to the exit fire exits when they were introducing the health and safety enhancement before the speaker? And I was like, absolutely. I think I swore, so I won't swear. No way. And I can't believe you've even asked. I was gobsmacked that was something that I was asked to do. And I spent the next couple of weeks quite angry that was the case. And I thought, Shelley, you can do two things. You can either accept that that's the way the world is and just, be a bit angry about it forever, or you can do something about it. And actually, what could you do? You could just do a leadership role in technology company on the Isle of Man and just try and do a good job. Not get a pat on the back for doing it, but just get on and do something good.
Yes.
And I think be seen by, people.
Yeah, men and women.
Younger, so that it becomes a thing that we don't have to applaud that you are a woman doing something. It's just that you are just a person doing a job, and look, you've done a great job, you've done a bad job, whatever, but you are. It doesn't matter anymore what colour skin you have, what gender you are. So that was my I felt my role to play, that I had to put that sort of pin in the board and say, right, that's what I could do. So that's why I picked up the phone really to Adam and said, what are you doing and would you consider me? Because I think if it hadn't have been for that in guide of this isn't actually about me, it's about more than me. It's about a cause, I suppose. It felt like I could pick up the phone. I had
but in your own merit anyway.
Well,
but
but I think the confidence in picking up the phone came from not me wanting. I've never really wanted to climb the career ladder as such. I just want to learn something new every day and go, oh right, okay, well, what can I do that's in that instance, it's what could I do that would help more women in the future. And I stand on the shoulders of giants, because the fact that I was even considered for a role, I think is a testament to many a woman that have gone before me.
Fabulous, well done.
Yeah,
so proud of you.
Thanks. And then so I was there, and I took a promotion in that time, and after I'd been at Blue Wave for a few years, and I then started working with the rest of the group
Yeah, that's SVP.
Yeah. So I
But
was
it's-
group operations.
yes.
But it was a bit of a catch. Like with working for any entrepreneur, it's what hat do you wear today and what job have you got today?
Yeah.
And I absolutely love working in that entrepreneurial environment where your plate's spinning, you've got loads of things going on, you don't know what's going to happen. You've got what I call a challenge Annika moment. So you're like, get the chopper. And you've got to sort of be resourceful and work with what you've got. So so I did loads of different amazing things there, and again, very grateful for the opportunities that I was given and responsibilities
and a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah.
So we're lucky to have you. Great.
Yes.
So are you still there? You've actually left that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm now. So I left in April, and it was sort of one of those moments where I loved what I was doing, but I felt like I sort of had done what I could there, and I'm not really very good at looking for another job, really. Whilst I'm in a job, I always feel a little bit like, I sort of everything. I turn up.
I don't know. Your CV would tend to say contrary to what you just said, but okay. Let's see where it goes.
I've not really ever sort of, I have applied for jobs, but I've not really sort of done that in the way where I've been, looking for something. Well, I've been very, it just made me feel very awkward.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, okay, well, best thing to do is hand your notice in and see what happens next. So I'm consulting at the moment, and I bumped one of those Isle of Man things. I bumped into my current client, or one of my current clients, that I'm working for 2 or 3 days a week by at one of the Isle of Man e-clubs, Isle of Man Digital e-clubs.
Yeah, gosh.
And they needed someone to help them, and I was like, oh well, I can help.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing at the moment, along with various other things I've said yes to.
Yeah, no, I can see that. You've got a whole host of voluntary roles that you've done or you're doing.
One of them at the moment is chair of the Digital Forum for Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, how's
on
that?
the island. Loving it, having a deep dive at like digital, what's happening around the world with digitisation and how economies are dealing with that. So that's been fascinating, and also, I was on the forum for 2 or 3 years anyway, so I sort of knew most of the people that were already on there, and the incredible Deb Byron said, "Oh, you should put your name forward, Shelley." I was like, "Oh, okay, okay, Deb." I thought about it, and I thought actually, let's do that. So it's taken up quite a lot of my time, but I was fascinated, and again, I sort of feel like if you enjoy it, it's not really like work.
No.
So
you never work a day in life
No.
if you enjoy what you do.
No. So sometimes, you have to do the grubby bits and the hard bits and the bits you don't like for a bit.
Yes.
But if it starts becoming a lot, I think, that's a move on time.
Are you cold?
I'm actually okay.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you get cold, just his windows are single glazed. Sorry to cut all out, James. Note to the trustees. But yeah. Okay, James. So we're just on to Shelley's. Just moving on to the rest of the questions now. So we'll pick up from there. Okay. So we just touched on it very briefly before about my day job. So in my day job, as a financial planner, what I normally ask people is, what's your earliest memory of money, and how was it growing up? Because I think it kind of shapes who you are and what your beliefs are around it. And I just wondered if you'd mind sharing that with us.
So I don't feel like I had.
Let's just put that around again. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
So I don't really feel like I really had an awareness of money, really, which probably says a lot as a young child. I didn't really, need for anything, or there was nothing sort of, I'm sure my parents wouldn't have thought that, but certainly as a child, I was completely shielded from anything that felt like a worry.
Yes.
And the first experience I had really where I sort of really started to understand what that was my mum at high school. So I was just going into high school, so I was just 10. And she, instead of giving me my lunch money every day, because at that time you didn't have the cards and things, you had actual cash.
Yes, I remember being that older than you. Yes. She gave me £40 at the beginning of the month. And she said, right, that's got to last you for all your lunches all month, and you'll get another £40 at the beginning. And I was like, wow, 40 quid on sweets. Amazing. Which is what I did in the first week. And I stopped at the shop on the way every morning and got a load of sweets, and then realised that I didn't have enough money for my lunches for the rest of the month. So I had to make sandwiches. Or I can't remember, I had to do something. But anyway, she might have even given me a little bit more and said, next month you'll learn. But not she gave you more money.
No. But actually, that was my first sort of experience of having an amount that was more than I just needed at that one moment in my life. So having to think, how is that going to... if I spend £3 today, I actually don't have, that's something that I've got to make last. So that was a really interesting lesson to learn at quite a young. I don't know if it really, maybe it did make me better with money as I've got older. I don't know. But certainly I think that was my mum's intention to help me.
Well done,
plan.
Mum.
Yeah, it probably comes from the fact that she can't plan at all. By self-admission.
No, but you've got a 19-year-old, and did you bring?
Oh, so he's 18. So he's 19 in summer next year.
Oh, lovely. So have you given him a sort of similar kind of experience in money?
So his
you don't have to answer that.
It's fascinating. So my experience with him, we had very, very little money when he was growing up. And we had probably once all my bills had gone out, about £400 for everything, food, clothes, holidays, everything, fuel. So not a huge amount of money to last you a month, more than £40, but only one zero in the end. Yeah. And so a lot of his life was looking at the labels of things and seeing how much was in it per gram and how much how much you would get out of that. So what was better value? So we would go through the supermarket going, right, this was a game for us that he would have at that age.
It's a pretty wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
Makes you very resilient at times.
Yeah.
Like now.
But also, I never felt like I didn't have, I felt like I felt like I didn't have loads of money, but also that I had what I needed at that time. It wasn't a great place to be in terms of if something had gone wrong. I didn't have something for the next month, so I didn't have that cushion. But we had a great life and we had, especially living on the island, I think that we had just this amazing doorstep of activities to do that were going outside and enjoying what we had, which was completely free.
Well done.
Great for you emotionally.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a really good story. So of all the things you've done throughout your life so far, what's given you the most fulfillment?
I think having my children. So I've got a daughter who's 2.5 as well now. So she was a lockdown baby.
Wow.
And I always joke and say it took me 16 years to get over having the first one. Love you, Brooke. But really, it was I think they give everything. They do. I feel that feeling of full up of love, and I suppose that fulfillment. I think
as a parent, I guess it's what you hope for, isn't it?
And I think the other side is I probably never really feel fulfilled because I feel like the more I know I don't know. So at that constant, in awe and amazement of what other things I could learn about the world and about myself is huge and massive. So my kids.
Fabulous, thank you.
Answer.
Yeah. You've done a variety of roles, but for any existing business owner leader or even, wannabe entrepreneurs, what would be your number one tip?
My number one tip is, if you can't do it alone, you need other people. And so you need to learn to care about them and look after them, and genuinely, because you're going to need them to grow, and you're going to need them to do what you want them to do and come on the journey with you and scale with you, or even not even scale, just grow a bit with you if that's what you want to do. But anything more than you doing something on your own, even arguably that, you need other people to do it for you or with you. You're never a solo entity.
No, I love that on your LinkedIn profile. The first 3 words: build a kinder organisation.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
one of the things that really has inspired me recently is I was asked. I was sort of tagged in to present Mary Portas with not present her. What's it called when you open? She was speaking, and I was introducing. Introducing her at an event in a couple of years ago, and I'd never really come across. I don't have a TV at home, so I don't really watch sort of like normal TV stuff. But I'd never really come across her too much. I just sort of knew about her, but because I was introducing her, I thought I better read your books, Mary. And she had a book at the time called The Kindness Economy, or How to Build in the Kindness Economy, something like that. Would recommend. And it was inspirational in terms of the concepts that she was talking about for me, because I was like, oh, that's what I think. That's what I think. Oh my goodness, that's what I think. And I mean, in a very tiny nutshell, it's people, planet, and then profit. And the way that the world is moving to that sort of...
It's amazing how it all falls in place when you do that.
Yeah. And actually, so coming back to the people bit is, that sense of looking after the people that you work with, even if, you don't even have to be the leader of an organisation to do that. You can be a manager, you could be a co-worker, but actually caring about the people that you spend time with every day.
Yeah, sure.
Is massive, and you can make a massive difference in someone's life by caring about them and being compassionate and kind.
Yeah, no, I agree. With us, there's quite a move in the fund world of ESG, environment, social and governance, and kind of as a firm here, our view is the biggest focus is on the G, so it should be a ES and a big G, capital G, because the governance, the tone from the top, the leadership of your organisation, the others should follow if it's right. But.
And that is, it does come from that sort of setting the tone does come from the top, certainly in any organisation. And actually, I think sometimes, when we don't feel maybe we fit in an organisation, it's because you don't fit with that leadership style. In some way or another, but big shout out to Mary Portas there, because she is an inspiration.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. So, what do you do to relax? What do you do to keep your life in balance? Still singing?
I don't know. Do I relax? No, I do. So one of the things
the 2.5-year-old, pretty busy.
Yeah. One of the things that I've done this year is I engaged the services of an embodiment coach. So one thing that I've worked, I'm sort of in work, I've always been quite intuitive in sort of decision making. And I got to the end of last year, and I think it was sort of post-COVID, having a baby, having a demanding job, life, all of those things that everyone tries to squeeze in. And I sort of was starting to dither over making decisions. And I thought, this isn't very like me. So what can I do to improve that? And trust my intuition. And I went on a yoga retreat in the January. And I, made a pledge to my fellow yogis at the retreat that I was going to this year I was going to really focus on my intuition and tapping into that, and what is my innate knowledge telling me. So I've done that this year and followed up with an embodiment coach, which for those of you listening that don't know what an embodiment coach is.
Yeah, including me.
I'm not fully. I don't think I could define it in a way that that Aoife would do, who is the services that I engaged, Aoife O'Donoghue. So it's about it's tapping into your body and sort of what is trusting what your body's telling you, which you know or not, and allowing your feelings to move through your body, not holding on to them and trapping them, which causes us a lot of stress and maybe built up pain or all of those things. So one of the things I've learned this year to help me relax is to breathe. Which is, I feel like I've been breathing quite successfully for a number of years. So to learn how to breathe again.
Breathe deeply.
Yeah, and actually how, in stressful situations we breathe really shallow breaths, and actually we really need the oxygen, so we need to actually be breathing quite deeply. But actually some of the moments where we feel an awkward feeling or a feeling of I'm not quite feel okay with that, we can often push it away and not think about it and not deal with it. And actually it's not understanding why that feeling is there, but it's actually just feeling it and moving past.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done. That's great. Oh, I've said it again. That's great. It's fabulous. Yeah. So tell me what you think are the best things about living on the Isle of Man, Shelley.
So, I have to say community is like my number one top thing, because, I had never felt, as I said before, I'd never felt that sort of feeling of community as I felt when I moved here. And that you could contribute and you could help make things different. I feel that when I lived in England, I didn't feel that. So that's my number one thing. My second thing, I don't know if I've got how many I've got, but number two I would say is being like these amazing scenes that we have around us. We're sat in this incredible centre of the Isle of Man here, and I had to stop and I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
You've not been here before?
I've been to the shopping part down the road.
Mills,
yes. But I've not been to this little bit.
It's conference centre, so
it's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. And just
available for hire.
Yeah.
Not by us.
I would say come hire it. It's incredible.
It is. It's gorgeous.
And just that you have a place like this which is full of trees and got this amazing river running past, and then you've got not too far away these incredible beaches and different types of beaches, big sand dunes in Michael, and then you've got Rocky, Scarlet, and it's just incredible the variety of different places you can go to. And
it is.
And I don't know if I've probably got lots of next ones on my list.
Yeah, we'll move on, shall we?
Yeah.
Talk all day. So, looking at the other side, though, what's the main challenges do you feel that the Isle of Man has, to its own success?
Without being an economist and sort of doing this very analytically, challenges, I think sometimes we underplay what we have here and who we have here, and we don't maybe see how amazing some of the things are that are sort of right underneath our noses, and at the same time we don't always look up to see what else is going on in the world, and we can become quite, speaking very generally, but it can become quite sort of like, this is the way we do it on the Isle of Man, and not really having that wider sort of vision of where does the Isle of Man sit in the world.
So what could we do to change that then? What solutions and opportunities can you see?
So
you seem to be doing a lot already through your chamber work.
Yeah.
And the other things that you
so that's so in terms of chamber and the digital forum, certainly from a digitisation aspect, one of the things that we responded to the consultation recently for their economic strategy. The draft strategy that's just come out this summer, and one of the sort of overwhelming things was one of the most overwhelming things that came from the forum was that we really need to get some of the sort of fundamental pillars of things right. So, if we're going to grow our economy and increase the number of people here, then we need to really look at some of the fundamental structures of what we do now in terms of, can we support the things that are already happening in terms of education and in terms of health, access to health, and these things. Even though you think about digitization, it affects all of those things as well. In terms of, I've looked at the Government Technology Services roadmap, and it's insane what they've got to deliver for it's a small island, but we need everything. Yeah, it's a country that is the same as the UK. So it's a really difficult balance to blend sort of those two sort of big aspirations, but also a small nation.
Yeah, sure. Is there any collaboration that goes on that you're aware of with small nations?
So one of the things that my husband Andrew is the leader of the Green Party on the island, so I know that they have. This isn't government, but in terms of, there's an islands sort of, they share knowledge and things, and I think there's a lot of other aspects that do the same, a lot of other things that do the same. So I know Digital Isle of Man and looking at how Jersey are doing things and what they can take from that. And it is that sort of like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but just actually look at what's going on in different places.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So what have you got planned next? I need to stop saying so. What have you got planned next, Shelley?
So I couldn't help it.
I know I'm going to say so.
I don't know. I don't know. So I can't stop saying it now.
Sorry.
It's infected me. I have a very much going with the flow philosophy, which is permeated throughout my career, really.
Seems to have worked out so far, to be fair.
And actually, some of the things I want to do, is help businesses have that sort of centre of kindness, because I feel that really does a lot stems from looking after that, as you said, that governance piece is really important. And so that's sort of, if I can help that in any way. But also I'm quite excited by disruptive technology. I sort of see myself, I think, in that technology in a little way. So it's not sort of being, I'm not, the traditional. I'm the opposite. So
you are. That's and it's wonderful to hear. So again, are there any books you've read recently that you'd like to share for our listeners? Any sources of inspiration, or just a good read?
Yeah. So books wise,
I think by Mary Portas just recently. You mentioned that one. Anything else?
Mary Portas, definitely. So I don't get a chance to actually physically read too much. I've always been a big reader, and I was always, under the covers at 11 o'clock at night when I should have been asleep, trying to,
or at podcasts and things that you do listen to on a regular basis.
I do Audible as well, so I sort of say that I read books, but actually listen to books.
That's fair enough. Okay. Anything that you've listened to?
Well, one of the most I always would say is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, which was a big game changer.
That's on my list. I must read that. Yeah,
and that was incredible. And anything really he has done.
Yeah.
So Homo Deus, and he's done 3 or 4 sort of in that sort of series.
Okay, and anybody else who inspires you other than Mary Portas, or is she she's pretty inspirational,
amazing.
Isn't she?
I don't know if there's one. I find inspiration in so many things, and I wouldn't say there's sort of one pinnacle of inspiration. I probably move through inspirational phases.
Okay,
but actually, I have friends that have overcome amazing adversity, and I'm inspired by them, and I'm inspired by, my husband, who juggles so many things. And so there's a lot of sort of close inspiration in terms of who I'm surrounded by, as well as sort of the figures, I've never really been one for, like film, stars really, because I've always just thought, well, they're just people.
Just people pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah, they're just people really. But I really am inspired by authenticity and people that are really trying to be the best versions of who they really are, and that's a really tough journey.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Yeah. And what's your favourite quote? I think you said one. You said
one. I've got like.
Go on.
My husband's got a quote folder in his phone.
Has he?
Yeah. So he's
there are some great ones out there, aren't there?
Yeah. Because why you've got to actually remember them as well. I'm not really good at verbatim. So quote, one of the things that my mum always said, and I don't know if probably different people say in different ways, but she always just said, do what you love doing. And I've come back to so many times in my head, which is do what you love to do, and that how much more enjoyment you can get out of life when you actually do what you love. And it's not it's not always the easiest path, and it's not always the sort of the straight path, but it's really interesting and enjoyable. So
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now your inspirational LinkedIn profile is somewhere where everybody should go and learn all about you. Is there anywhere else that you've got that we can signpost people to in the show notes?
LinkedIn is probably the place where I sort of put my considered thoughts about different things and life.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's interesting actually, because I think there's been so many people when you speak with authenticity, and that's pushing through your own sort of awkwardness about posting something real and not sort of super curated, and maybe that might be a bit sort of challenging to you, and so many people have like messaged and said, wow, that really helped me, that resonated, or you could we go for a coffee, because I'd love to hear more about that thing. So more authenticity, please.
Thank you, and thank you for responding to my request to come on Island Influencers. That's been lovely. Thank you so much. Island Influencers is a fortnightly podcast. Make sure you don't miss the next episode by clicking the follow button on your podcast platform. A big thanks to the producer and editor of this episode, Catherine Watts and James Spooner at Bear Content. And thank you for listening.